Welcome to the King and Chapman Show. It is Monday, May 20th. I am Brent Chapman, and with me, out of Plano East High School in Plano, Texas, the original Fab One, Jimmy King!
It gets better every time, B. It gets better every time. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where the main character said that a good person always has a theme music. I feel like you're like my theme music, my intro. I appreciate you, B.
We may need you to just like start off camera and then walk you in with some music,
with a crown and a robe and a scepter.
We're going to get to this later, but it's almost like I need to do Tyson Fury versus Usyk part 2.
Yeah.
I think they need me for that. Jimmy, how was your weekend? We had game 7's. We had golfers getting arrested on the way to golfing. We had fights. We had Xander. We had it all, Jimmy. How was your weekend?
It was awesome. It was a great sports-filled weekend. The weather was great, which was better than the week before. A little drab, little cool, little rainy. But it was great for the sporting worlds. Playoff NBA basketball, boxing, like you mentioned, golf. We had some extra curricular activities that go on at the PGA Championship Tour. So it was just interesting this weekend.
We had a great meme weekend, Jimmy, which leads us into our first topic. So waking up Friday morning on the way to work, and I get this alert that says Scottie Scheffler was arrested on the way to the golf course. So here's what happened. Let me lay it out for you. There was a fatal accident. There's a great picture. There was a fatal accident outside of Valhalla about 5 a.m. in the morning. Unfortunately, a guy was struck by a shuttle bus and passed away, an older gentleman. Tragic. Well, so obviously what happened was police and ambulances and all sorts of stuff around the scene. And it's raining outside. And so the players are coming in, and Scheffler, like everyone else, has got the players thing on his card. He's driving in, and he gets stopped or told to stop, and he thinks it's a traffic guard that doesn't know what he's doing. And so he keeps going and blows by the police barricade and blows by him to go in and get golfing. Turns out that's not exactly, it was not a security guard. It was a police officer who didn't appreciate him violating his authority, and on video handcuffed him, and he was arrested. Nate, can we see that great picture again? There he is in his orange jumpsuit. He said that he warmed up in the jail cell, Jimmy, and rushed back to the course to shoot a 5 under par that next day after being arrested. He faces 4 charges following his arrest: second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding signals from an officer. So, wow, what a day, what a game, what a shock to everybody. But Jimmy, the question is, should Scottie have been arrested?
Well, I mean, should he? Probably not, but I understand why. You have to set the precedence. You can't have or show favoritism to anyone, including the number 1 player in golf, Scottie Scheffler, who's not to be confused with Xander Schauffele. But
Not to be
you know,
confused.
under the circumstances, condolences to the family that lost their loved one. Um, that's nothing to laugh about. It's no laughing matter. But the situation, I could see where, Scheffler was just, thinking that it was just maybe a normal backup and was trying to get around and didn't mean anything by it. I think that's why, he was
Jimmy, give us
processing
a
that
little.
out.
Give
And
it, Jimmy. Give us a little pro player insight.
so,
You're
so,
on
so
your
that's
way to the game.
so this is what
You're
I'm saying,
dialed
right?
in for the game.
Right. So you're not really, and it's dark. I saw part of the video. Like it was
Yeah,
still kind of dark
and it was
outside.
raining.
Yeah, it was rainy, not ideal conditions. So there was a lot of confusion. I've seen interviews from other players that said it was just very confusing that morning. But as a player, you pretty focused in on like getting to the course, wanting to warm up, get in the clubhouse, get dressed, maybe say a couple of words to your other buddies on the tour, and just go into your normal routine. So it's kind of like a mindless morning until you hit that stage where you're ready to walk out
That's right.
and perform for the world. So again, to answer your question, I can see why they did it, but I don't think he probably should have been arrested. I think that's why he shot a 5 under after they released him and cordially pushed back his tee time to let him do so.
No, Jimmy, first of all, I have to give props to Scottie for doing his stretching in the jail cell. That's a pretty impressive thing. I will.
Dedication, baby.
I
That's
obviously
pro dedication.
that is good. I obviously am not a professional athlete, but I can see, and it sounds like you have experienced this as well. When you're on your way to the game, you are focused in on the game. You are getting your head right. You are thinking about what you got to do when you get there, and everything happening around you. And this happens to all of us, whether we're driving to work or we're driving to something. It's all noise, right? You're not really registering
Mm-hmm.
everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So he showed up at courses every weekend of the year, and there's lights and there's guys shuffling him in and there's guys telling him to stop and there's confusion and he just keeps driving. He's not paying attention.
But that's the key to that though, B, is that you probably should pay attention when it's the cops, when it's the police.
Yeah,
I
I
can
think he
see
said he
if
didn't
it's an
know.
official. I can see if it's an official or if it's security.
They got the
Top flight.
rain. They
It's
got
not
the
top
rain
flight
gear on.
security.
You can't tell. You can't tell that it's not security versus a police officer, and the fact that he's focused in, he's probably not even really thinking about it. Like
Not
I'm
at
telling
all.
you, I would have done the same damn thing Scottie Scheffler said. I would have been like,
Absolutely. Just
"Biatch,
like,
I'm
well,
the number
a
one."
lot of the players were saying that, he didn't put any resistance. He was kind of looking confused. He didn't know what was going on. So you could kind of tell that, he wasn't, well, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it didn't seem like he was fully alert, fully woke yet,
Yeah,
under the circumstances and conditions.
yeah, I'd be like driving there, focused on the thing, being like, "Hey, biatch, I'm the number one golfer in the
Yeah,
world.
no
Get
doubt.
out of my way. I
I'm
don't know
looking
who you
fresh.
are." Yeah.
I don't know.
And then,
Yeah, which belt am I
obviously,
wearing today? What shoes am I wearing today?
yeah, yeah.
Am I wearing a solid
And
shirt,
look,
a print shirt?
everything
What's popping today?
everything that we hear about Scotty is a very thoughtful guy. I'm sure that if he had
Absolutely.
stopped and thought for a minute, he would have obeyed the officer. I just think so. So to answer the question, no, I don't think Scottie Scheffler should have been arrested. I
Me
think they should have kind of considered everything going on and said, "Hey, look, you go play golf. We'll handle this later. We'll have a conversation afterwards and be done with it." So
Absolutely. That seems like the most logical thing to do.
So Jimmy, we haven't been doing this a long time, but we've been doing this long enough to say that's the first time we've had a non-NFL or non-NBA topic lead off our show, and we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs, which brings us to all those great games that we had this weekend. So we're going to start
Woo!
with a game 7 yesterday. The Indiana Pacers went to the Garden against the New York Knickerbockers and blew them the F out. 130 to 109. And this just wasn't a blowout. This was like a historic victory. They shot, Jimmy, an NBA record 67.1% from the field. I don't care what the Knicks did. I don't care who was injured.
Exactly.
You aren't going to beat a team shooting 67.1% from the field in a game 7. It's over. Jimmy, do you think the Pacers are legit contenders?
Well, anybody at this stage in the game, obviously legit. and they made me
Come on, you gotta have a better take than that, Jimmy. Come on, man.
They made me eat. They made me eat pie because nobody considered them to beat the Knicks, and I think they probably wouldn't beat the Knicks if Jalen Brunson hadn't got hurt. Now, I'm not giving any excuses. The Pacers did what they had to do. Halliburton, Nembhard, Siakam, like the whole team was a team effort. They looked like the better team. So, yes, they deserve to be at this point of the stage, regardless of their seed. And a 21-point victory in the Garden at a game 7 is historical in itself. So, kudos to the Pacers, my home state.
Now, Jimmy, I'm going to call you out on this, all right? Jalen Brunson breaking his hand or fracturing his finger with 8 minutes left in the game is not why they lost by 30 points.
It's part of it, not all.
They were cooked by the time that happened. That was just proverbial.
Now, wait a minute. It's the same like the Nuggets and Timberwolves.
Don't give it away.
Timberwolves.
Don't give it away, Jimmy.
I'm not giving it away. I'm just saying. It's a comparison. Same thing. Timberwolves, Nuggets, Knicks, Pacers.
Here's what's a blessing for, I don't know, the NBA and NBA fans is that the Knicks didn't actually win that game without Brunson breaking his hand, because the next series would be horrible with the Knicks and no Brunson.
True.
But the one other thing before we move on, Jimmy, that I want to bring up is I remember you saying maybe 2 weeks ago that at best a gentleman's sweep.
At best.
I don't recall you picking the Pacers in 7 or the Pacers even getting 2 wins.
No,
they won the series, Jimmy.
I did not. I didn't see the Pacers. Like I said, like me, I'm eating crow. I did not pick the Pacers to win more than 2 games, and they're in the conference finals.
All right. So did they gain a little bit of respect from the King?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I said any team to make it to this point is pretty good. You just don't make. I mean, of course, the Jalen Brunson hand thing. Who knows? And they had some other issues too, but yeah, I think the Pacers have found it looked like they found a mark.
Okay. So
it looked like they're playing well together. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's the team. It's the whole team.
I don't want to extend this topic too long, Jimmy, but I'm going to add something in here that I think is important to say, which is I don't think the Pacers are good. I look at the Pacers and I go, well, this is just an average team. They're playing well together, whatever. Right? They don't even really have a star guy. And then I remember who's on the bench. And there's a guy by the name of Rick Carlisle who seems to have a career of doing this.
That's right.
He took the no-name Pistons and beat the
up.
all-name Lakers in the early 2000s.
Coach him up.
Then about a decade later, he took the Dirk Nowitzki only Dallas Mavericks and won a championship. And now he's got the no-name, nobody who's ever heard of these guys, Indiana Pacers, in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Do you know why, B? He is an old school NBA player.
There we go, Jimmy.
He's an old school guy. He believes in team, not just one superstar, two superstar, even a three superstar, which doesn't seem to work anymore. The big three doesn't seem to be a factor in considering who's going to
No,
go deep into the playoffs or even win the championship. So
no.
Rick Carlisle is a veteran player, veteran coach, and he does this everywhere he goes. So well coached teams. It doesn't get a lot of credit. We look at the talent,
He did it.
but we
He
don't
did it
necessarily
against.
give the coach the credit when they
That's
deserve
right. He did it against. He did it against the stacked Lakers in the early 2000s with Malone and Shaq and Kobe and Gary Payton. He did it against them. Then he did it against the LeBron Dream Team, Heat,
Mhm.
Chris Bosh. So every time somebody tries a super team, he does this,
He
right?
does it.
So enough Pacers. I can't believe we talked that much. Can't believe anybody talked that much about Indiana.
Whoa,
Let's move
whoa,
along.
whoa. That's my home state, baby.
I got you, Jimmy. Let's move along to the Minnesota Timberwolves went in to Denver and said bye, bye, bye to the defending champions. Now, this, Jimmy, is the 6th season in a row that the defending champions have not made it past the
That's
second
crazy.
round, which is crazy.
I didn't even know that stat. That's wild
Now,
to me.
now
That's
I
so
was
wild.
watching this game last night, Jimmy, and the Timberwolves were down. They were getting beat. I was watching with my son. We said, "Oh, we're gonna watch. It's
Like
gonna
the
be great."
Knicks.
7. We're watching. Ant Edwards goes 1 of 9. We're at halftime, and I'm like, "All right, dude, go play iPhone, and I'm gonna go do some work, and this thing's over." Then he runs down into my room and says, "Dad, turn on the TV." So we turn it back on, and sure enough, the Timberwolves have gone on a 32-9 run from the 10:50 mark in the third quarter to when I turned it on with 11:14 left in the fourth quarter. And they beat the Denver Nuggets and are moving on to the Western Conference Finals.
Unbelievable.
Surprised, Jimmy, that they dethroned the
Surprised.
champs in such a dramatic fashion?
Absolutely. That's another one I picked that I thought the Denver Nuggets was going to do a championship sweep by losing the first 2 and then winning the last 4. But the most amazing thing is neither one of the teams won a game at home. That's crazy. and Minnesota, they're not not necessarily a sexy team. They got big names on the team, but they're not like the sexy team that we been following all year or followed all year. But they got a dog, and that's what they're feeding off of. Their dog is leading them. He's eating and feeding everybody else, and they carried him in stretches where he struggled. He didn't come out like gangbusters. It took him a little while to get it rolling and get started. So again, another great team win from the Timberwolves, just like the Indiana Pacers.
Jimmy, the thing that I will say about Anthony Edwards is, and I feel I have a sixth sense in kind of predicting playoffs and who's going to win. And I look at these things that are happening as the season concludes and into the playoffs. And you got a guy who's got an attitude. And it's an attitude that drives his team, waving to the fans, walking in and telling Durant to lace up his cleat or his shoes. We're gonna ball, bro. Just that complete attitude. He said, hey, he told the refs in Denver, we'll see you for game 7. He told the crew cleaning the stadium, like he's calling his shot.
That's right.
And there's something about that gets all those other guys. Look, you got Rudy Gobert. He's great. You've got Cat, who played 32 points last night, right? Mm-hmm. But my guy that I think was just like on fire at times and really helped was the Naz Reid. That guy just brings a fire. So you think you got these 3 studs, and then you got the 6th man of the year just flying all over the court.
Absolutely.
So
think about this. Look, like you just gave a kind of a big 3 formula, but they're not considered a big 3.
No, they're not a big 3.
But it's kind of but they don't overlap. So you got the dog, in Edwards. You got the defensive player of the year in Gobert. You got the sixth man of the year in Nas. But there was another factor that came into play that people are downplaying or overlooking, and that's Mike Conley. Because
Oh,
what he allowed Edwards to do is
fantastic.
to not dominate the ball so much, but to then come off screens,
Yeah.
catch the ball on the run. Then he's hard to stop. He's harder to stop than necessarily having the ball in his hands all the time. So what Mike Conley did, almost having a double, 10 points, eight assists, almost a triple double, 7 assists and 8 rebounds. That gives room for everybody else to really focus on what they're really doing. And the true point guard position isn't dead.
Jimmy, talking about dogs, the Dallas Mavericks are my dog in this fight.
Let's go, Mavs.
Let's go, Mavs. That's right. So here we go, Jimmy. Now, I'm sitting here on Friday night or Saturday, whenever it was Saturday, thinking about who do I want the Mavs to face, right? I don't want them to see the defending champs, right? I just think there's something about a defending champ. They've been there. They're going to pull through. I thought they were going to win that game yesterday, so I was surprised about that. But I look at the Mavericks and I think this could be their year. This really could be their chance to win a championship. And the way they took care of the Clippers, the way as the 5 seed they went into Oklahoma and just handled the Thunder, all that explosiveness, all that youth, they just dominated. And I want to say how they dominated. They dominated with defense, Jimmy. I know that's hard to believe, but this has been the Mavericks' problem. This has been their issue. They've got these scores, but they can't play defense. So they went and got Gafford. They went and got Washington. Irvin's being a dog, right? So they're getting Luka even can grind it out when he needs to. This is important. They out rebounded Oklahoma City 47-31 and had a 27-8 edge in second chance points.
Ooh,
That
huge.
is huge. Now,
for a 1 point game. That's huge.
we'll save this for our next show, but rebounding will be very interesting in the next series against the Timberwolves. So, Jimmy, how did the Mavs beat the top seed and clinch? They're the 5th seed. They went in and they just owned the number 1 seed in 6 games. How did they do that, Jimmy? Tell us.
So this is a loaded answer, okay? Because there's a lot of different factors. So let's start at the top. Let's start at Nico Harris, who's the general manager for the Dallas Mavericks, who pulled the trigger to get Washington and Gafford. I think they drafted Jones as well. So they got new blood in there, pulling the trigger to get Kyrie, typically in a moment when a lot of people were assassinating his character, really questioning his leadership. And then Jason Kidd, who's been a head coach for a couple of organizations, has some question marks, coming in, but I think is doing a wonderful job this year, mixing in the playing time and talent and keeping everybody happy. And then you got Luka, who I think is so good that he feels like he could do everything. But I think the best thing he's been doing is allowing Kyrie, Washington, Gafford, the other players to really step up and play their role to the max. And then you got Kyrie coming in, and I think finally, feeling like he's at home, feeling like he can really be himself off the court and be his own man, which makes him a better player, and it permeates throughout the locker room. So that's a big, long answer, but I really believe all those factors are hitting right now, and that's why the Mavericks are a 5th seed, because it took them a long time to kind of get it together, and now we're seeing the top product with the Mavs.
I think you bring up a good point that we haven't actually talked about on this show before, and we should probably explore in more episodes. Is Jason Kidd? I There's something, I've seen him in other coaching stops. He seemed a little immature. Really, it was about Jason Kidd. This does not seem about Jason Kidd, and he really seems to have settled into a veteran coaching presence. And I think it's pretty impressive what he's doing. One other side note before we move on to Usyk is I saw Dirk Nowitzki there, and I was thinking
Dirk was in
he
the house.
looks pretty good. They
Yeah,
could have
did.
taken one of those jerseys out of the rafters and put it on, and he might have been able to give him a good 8 to 10 minutes in that game. They could have used him.
Hey, listen, as a former player, I think our knees would tell you something differently. We may look good. We might be able to.
We didn't see him
get
walk
up and down out of a seat,
Yeah,
and people be like, "Oh yeah, he moves pretty good." You might be able to walk through a crowd pretty
Yeah.
swiftly and nimbly,
Yeah.
but getting on that basketball court, that's a different animal.
We didn't see him walk through his.
He might be able to hit a couple of shots, but he ain't sliding his feet and he ain't bending at the waist playing no D.
Oh, that is true, Jimmy. So moving along to Usyk, Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury said this was going to be the fight of the century. It was the first undisputed heavyweight fight in, I don't know, 30 years. It's the first one since November 1999 with Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield. And it was a good fight, Jimmy. I don't know if it was fight of the century, but it was a good battle. And there were some good highlights. And man, he was just rocking Tyson. I never actually seen Tyson Fury fight. I didn't realize how big he was.
Yes.
The guy looks like a Klitschko or one of those guys. He's just a massive human being. So one judge scored it 114 to 113. Another judge 114 to 113 for Usyk, and then the final judge 115 to 112. And with Fury with his first professional loss, Usyk with the split decision victory. But I want to read to you what Fury said after the fight and get your thoughts on this, Jimmy. Right. Fury said, "I believe I won the fight, but I'm not going to cry and make excuses." And he's about to cry and make excuses. I believe he won a few of the rounds, but I won the majority of them. What can you do? We both put on a good fight, the best we could do. People are siding with his country at war, but make no mistake, I won that fight, and I'll be back. We got a rematch clause. End quote. So, sounds like Tyson Fury thinks he got a little East German judge love.
He ready to lace him back up. He ready to get back in there as soon as possible. It's his first loss. Can you imagine, right? Yeah. Your very first loss after you make this great big proclamation that it's the fight of the century, and then you get rocked in the ninth, and then you get up and talk about like you should have won. No, bro. We know how fights work. If you get knocked to the canvas and the other guy doesn't, more than likely he wins.
Now, Jimmy, I'm going to say something that will definitely be a take for clips coming up, which is this is why I don't like split decisions in these sports. It should be like playoff hockey or playoff, where you play until the game ends. Right? So you just fighting.
So what do you propose it be?
Yeah, round 13, round 14, round 15, round 22.
No. Look, these guys
will eventually run out of gas, and one of them will land a punch, and his butt will be on the floor, and we'll have a real winner. That's what we need. I want Fury to
this
fight.
This is why I love you, B. Yes. This is why I love you. That's awesome. I could see that. I could go for that. I would love to see that in a street ball.
No, it doesn't have to be a street ball. It can be a sanctioned fight.
No, I know. But that's what I'm saying. That's why it's boxing. And guys, they have to protect the guys. Back in the day, they went 15 rounds. And then what? In the early 19th century, or 1900s, they didn't even have rounds or a round count. Some of
They
those
don't
rounds
need a
were in the
round
30s.
count. Just keep fighting. No, the round thing is okay. The 3-minute round to get stitched up and get a breather and get a little water, that's
So you're gonna
okay.
have to have like an intermediate then, like
I'm just
say
saying
if
there
it
shouldn't be an
reaches
end.
10, right?
It's like
Or right,
baseball,
then
bro.
like it should just keep going. So after
Baseball just
10,
keeps
every
going until
3
there's a
rounds,
winner.
you take a break or something.
No
That's a
break.
lot. Have you
Just keep
ever?
fighting.
Well, I won't say have you ever. I'm just saying that's a lot. It's a lot to be in that ring. Your conditioning,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
like your skill might when guys start to lose their wind, they lose their technique. They start doing things they would normally do, and that might get them killed. They might get out there and just seriously get body snatched in the
I'm not
ring.
saying I'm not saying the rules should change. The ref can call the fight the minute it looks like a guy is incapable of continuing. He can still do
Okay.
that. I'm just saying we don't have these judges determining who won. Tyson Fury and Usyk should have just kept going. Round 15, round 16, round 17. Eventually, they'll run out of gas and somebody will land a punch and put them on the ground. That's what we need. This is ridiculous. You can't have. I need to take over boxing. First of all, Jimmy, we would have real rankings. So number one would fight number two, and you would move your way up. Number two, we wouldn't cap it 9 rounds or 12 rounds. You would keep fighting until you couldn't get up anymore. That's it.
well, okay. So what about the top 10, right? The top 10 fighters fight. One fights 10, two fights 9.
I don't know. They just keep fighting each other.
Right.
They fight like they do now.
But
you
kind of do a tournament that way.
When you're number one, you have a top contender, and he fights number one.
1 and 2 fight all the time. So if you stay one, you just fight the second best fighter all the time.
They don't. There's always a top contender. So after this fight, there'll be a new top contender. That should be the one that fights Usyk. All right, Jimmy, we got to move along to something that I got worked up about that, and I could fix boxing, but nobody will let me. So, Jimmy, we're going to move along to a topic you love, and I'm just going to let you go here. I'm not even going to set it up. Xander, go, Jimmy. Tell us about Xander.
Xander Scheffler, who lost last week after he was winning, going into the last day leading in the leaderboard, and he ended up losing to Rory, who was a great player. But I knew coming into the PGA Championship that my man Xander Scheffler was going to show up and show out, and he did. And one thing I love about him, he doesn't get rattled. Last week would have rattled a lot of people. Losing like that after having the lead, they would have walked into this tournament doubting themselves. But he showed up. And I also love that when he wins, he has a celebratory cigar that's as big as his face. It's like this big. He just smokes like a big ass cigar on the course. And I love it.
You like him because he's a baller.
That's right. Love ballers. And I love when they, are comfortable in their own skin. You could tell he's comfortable. And I think you have to be if your name is Xander Scheffler. Like, I'm pretty sure he got teased a lot growing up in the day.
Jimmy, Xander.
That's my guy. Look at it. Look, the trophy is big as him. Look at that.
Jimmy. He's the champ.
He's the man.
Jimmy, I'm not going to give all these stats. I'm just going to tell you this. Scheffler recorded the lowest 72 scoring total, 263 in a major championship. Pretty impressive by Xander. Not even Mr. Scheffler with his newly minted teardrop tattoo under his eye. Thug Life could come out and beat Xander.
Hey, I was really wanting to see Tiger really make some noise this week, but I mean,
that was my pick.
He kind of fell out. He kind of fell out after the first day.
Did he make the cut? You said he'd
I
make
don't
the
even
cut.
think he made the cut.
Yep, I was right. He didn't even make the cut, Jimmy.
I'm not sure. I have to check, but
All right, Jimmy. Moving along to the last word, I would like to go first. As the newly appointed commissioner of the Consolidated United Federation of Boxing across the whole world, I am going to create a new belt that is the number one contenders belt. And you have to have that to fight for the championship. And the first match that we're going to have for the number one contendership, unlimited rounds, fight till you don't get back up, is going to be Tyson Fury versus Mike Tyson. That's going to be our first fight.
Bro, you try to get somebody killed. You're trying to get somebody killed. That's what MMA is for, okay? MMA is as far as it's going to go. Boxing, they got to keep it at least, kind of gentlemanly as much as possible. I mean,
Jimmy, would you not love to see Mike Tyson versus Tyson Fury?
No.
Why?
Because Mike, I just no.
Too old.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that.
Can't take it. Can't take the punches.
Yeah, I don't think Mike will have to get back into like training year round, and
he's training, bro. Did you see those videos?
Oh no, I seen him. He's in great shape now. I ain't saying he can't do it. I just
don't. The best part about Mike is he will train his butt off, and if things aren't going well, he'll just eat his ear. The problem is he's a whole lot taller than him, so it might be like a piece of like stomach or something that he takes a bite of. All right, Jimmy, what do you got? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. My man, Xander Sofale. Again, it shows right in the sports psychological, kind of warfare that we go with back and forth, training, being the best, going to a tournament, giving it your all, losing, in kind of a nightmarish way, and then coming back the next week for one of the majors, big tournaments, one of the golf's biggest tournaments, and win it, walking away. That is my take for the day. Shout out to my guy Sofale.
I hope we don't have to talk about Sofale for a while, but I have a feeling we're going to be talking about him.
He's coming back. He said he has another tournament in 2 weeks.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk previews of the Western and Eastern Conference Finals, and we got a lot more to get into in the sports world. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.